Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to welcome you to our regularly scheduled meeting of the Council of Thames Centre. The date is Monday, September the 22nd, and the time is 4:59 p.m., and I call this meeting to order. I'm looking for an approval of the agenda as circulated. Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest from the members of council? Okay, seeing none. I have one announcement. I will look to council to see if they have any, but in the meantime, just wanted to let everyone know, particularly the business people who might be in the room or watching online. On October the 2nd of this year, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m., we're holding a business networking event. So this is aimed at anybody in the municipality, no matter where you live or what you do. If you would like to come and join in on this, it will be quite informal. It's an opportunity for business people to get together, speak to each other, trade some ideas, problems, solutions, whatever it is. It's going to be it's sort of in the format of a wine and cheese reception. The keynote speaker for the night will be Kapil Lakota, who is the chair of the London Economic Development Corporation. So he will be in and with an opportunity to say a few words and to get some feedback from the audience in form of questions and answers. We'll also have Kim Earls. She is the director, the executive director of SCORE, which is the South Central Ontario Regional Economic Development. So do pass the word around to anyone who may be interested. The tickets are available online. They're free, but you just have to sign up through Eventbrite. Okay, so council, any announcements that you would like to make this evening? None? Okie dokie. We'll move on to item number 6 on your agenda, which is a presentation from Craig Linton on behalf of the building industry stakeholders regarding development charges in Thames Centre. So Craig, anytime you're ready. Just push the button in the middle of the...
Okay, looks like we're on here. Thank you. Through the mayor to council and staff, thank you for allowing this delegation. My name is Craig Linton. I work for Norquay Developments Limited based in London. We have facilitated the Foxborough development in Thorndale and look forward to bringing on another subdivision in Thorndale to market hopefully in 2026 if the stars align. And that would be on the east side of the existing Monteith subdivision. I've worked collaboratively with staff in the past to extend the trunk sewer through the Foxborough lands, which now services a lot of new development, but it also very importantly services a lot of the existing development to get them off of the septic systems, which were not functioning terribly well. The point of this delegation, we have a couple of asks from council. The first being January 1st, 2026, we would like to see a meaningful development charge rate reduction. And when I say development charge, I'm just referring to residential rate. I don't want to get into commercial or institutional. So when I say DC, I'm just referring to residential. The second ask here would be a dialogue with consultants and staff in the upcoming 2026 DC update process. Slide number 2, please. I am here on behalf of builders, developers, trades, realtors, heavy construction, lawyers, engineers. There's a lot of people who play a really large part in building Thames Centre. when I've looked at the population growth back from the 2016 to 2022 period, which was referred to in your 2024 budget update. And the average annual assessment growth rate was 4%, but your population growth during that same time period averaged slightly less than 2%. So your new population and growth have increased your assessment base faster than your population growth rate. So the new growth is actually helping to keep tax rates lower for the existing population. Next slide, please. We've seen over the past several years, housing starts in Thames Centre lag behind a lot of the adjacent municipalities on a per capita basis. We have an extreme example like St. Thomas that on a per capita basis, they've seen upwards of 6 times the residential unit start rates. Why is this happening? DCs are part of the equation. There's a lot of factors at play of why housing prices have skyrocketed over the past several years. Commodity prices, labor prices, there's been a lot of upward pressure. Interest rates the rising interest rates have really made housing unaffordable as well. When I look at and I talk about existing adjacent municipalities, speaking from my own personal experience, we facilitate a project in St. Mary's, and the development charge in St. Mary's for a street fronting townhome, so a multiple housing unit, there's a $25,000 gap in the DC. So we're at about 36,000 in Thames Centre, and we're at about 11,000 in St. Mary's. So I'm trying to facilitate construction of street fronting townhomes here in Thorndale. And, I've had a couple of builders say, we'd like to build there and we'd like to build more of this product. And so I give them some information and they say, what are the DCs like? I forward them the DC rates, and they both politely declined and said, how can we possibly offer the same housing product in Thames Centre for the same price when it costs us $25,000 more to deliver? And that $25,000 on a $500,000 home is 5% of the cost of that home. So the same housing product in Thames Centre is effectively 5% more money. Next slide, please. So just to expand on my previous point there, we can see Thames Centre illustrated in the middle in red there. The only single family DC in the area that's over 50,000 surpasses that of even London. We can see up at the top there, St. Mary's is listed there. Their single family DC is 13,000. Multiples are at 10. We have some other examples there as well. St. Thomas, again, it's reasonably far away. I don't think that we really compete with St. Thomas so much, but certainly Stratford, St. Mary's, Lucan Biddulph, Ingersoll, Tillsonburg, those areas are close enough that we actually do compete against them for housing, and London as well. Next slide, please. So how did we get to such a high development charge here in Thames Centre? When we go back and we look at figure 3.2 from the Thames Centre growth forecast summary from 2021, the growth, the housing need projection by Watson said that we needed 160 units per year for 22, 23, 24, and 25. So that's 640 residential housing units was their projection. When we see that the 10-year average prior to that was a little over 50, the 5-year average to that prior to that from 2016 to 2021 was, I believe it was 71, 72 units right in there. So I'm not sure why they projected such a high number right off the bat. And projecting that high number right off the bat is really problematic, because the triggers for constructing a lot of the projects that are required for new growth were effectively right around the corner. And so a lot of those triggers were kind of hit. And you need to start planning for these infrastructure projects several years in advance. So it appears to us as though there's been some projects that have been triggered that may have not actually been necessary, given our growth rate, our actual residential starts. So for 22, 23, and 24, you can see the numbers there have fallen off a cliff, and that's not uncommon for virtually everywhere that you go, because we all know what's happened to the housing market in the past few years. So that's not an uncommon trend anywhere. If we estimate that at the end of 2025, we have 40 new starts, then we will be on pace for, in the 4 years, to have about 215 units constructed. That is 1/3 of what was projected in the DC study. So we have nowhere near matched what was projected in the DC study. So there's a real imbalance there, and we've got a concern that hopefully we can have a meaningful discussion with staff and Watson and Associates, or whoever your consultant is for the 2026 DC go around, to really look at those projects that have been identified in the municipality's master plan and the triggers for those projects to take place. We just need to understand now that those triggers are now much further out, and therefore, hopefully, the DC rate can therefore wind up coming down, because some of these projects can now get pushed out perhaps beyond the next 25-year planning period. Slide number 6, please. So this is just an example of what a few other municipalities have done very recently in order to try to rein in housing prices. And municipalities have limited tools in terms of affecting house prices, and DCs are certainly the one that sticks out the most in terms of new home residential construction. So Mississauga did a 50% DC rate cut right across the board. They've obviously identified an extreme need for 3-bedroom rental units, because they did a 100% DC cut there. So, DC cuts can be made in order to target very specific needs in hopes of being able to spur specific development on. Hamilton has done a 20% DC rate cut. Vaughan decided to roll theirs back to 2018 levels, so their DC rate went almost in half. At the end of the day, DC charges are a discretionary charge. There are some municipalities, I recall Goderich about 10 years ago, they had no DC at all for years and years and years. And that was just a decision that they made. And that all new growth infrastructure was funded by the existing tax base. So it is a discretionary charge. Council does have the ability at any point in time to come up with a motion and say we would like to target DC reductions. And so that goes back to my ask number 1, that council have a DC rate decrease that is meaningful to us January 1st, 2026. And ask number 2 simply being that we have a consultation process with the industry. We could have a working group or something like that as we get into the 2026 DC rate update process. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Any questions from the members of council? No. Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Craig, for taking the time to come out. I think this conversation and your presentation is very timely. I don't think the conversation about Thames Center's DCs is a new one, but something that I think we're going to be looking at going forward. So I appreciate you doing some of the number work for us, and I'd be happy to move the motion for receiving this for information.
Well, once it's on the floor, so I can second that motion and so thank you, Craig, for that information. And there does seem to be some inconsistencies in terms of perhaps what was in the study versus, the reality of today. And I know that studies will do that, right? So I'm wondering, is it possible for us to move forward with a DC review sooner rather than later? And if we do that, what other background studies do we need in order to inform us going forward with the new DC state?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The DC study relies heavily on the water wastewater master servicing plan. Our last water wastewater master servicing plan was 2019. Usually has a forecast of 10 years. For industry changes like we've seen in the last 5 years, 5 years renewal in 5 years makes sense. So we're at that point right now. I could write a report for a timeline or different projections, but master servicing plan would be your first trigger, just to update the existing and then move into the DC background study update. The two followed, I think, 3 years behind each other. Last background study was 2021. So that would be your first move, is the water wastewater plan update.
Councillor Lockie.
Yeah, through your worship. I do have a lot of concerns about reducing development charges because, just example, wastewater is a huge one. And I'm a finance person by trade and I've done my own forecasts and there's not going to be enough. And so, but before we make any decisions, we need to make sure it's very, very thoroughly thought out. And that would be my recommendation. But, if Director Craven believe that it's feasible to move the study earlier, I would support that.
Councillor Heeman.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this forward. I've been around where during the time that those assumptions were made and we've seen the departure from that trend. And I think in COVID, when we had increases of double-digit increases to the construction CPI, those were passed on to the DCs. And at that time, we didn't really know where this would end up, but it occurred to me that I don't think this policy is going to persist, because you can't just compound those increases. That there needs to be a way to review that policy beyond the CPI basket to accommodate deflationary market pressures. And I don't think we've done that. So I think that this is a necessary step, and I'm not in favor of the existing tax base funding development. I think that we still need to have a partnership and infrastructure, but I do think this is out of alignment with that and creating a disincentive. And I don't think this is strictly a development issue, because I think that this is affecting existing property owners when they're looking at doing additions or putting up an ARU, or putting in a garage, or farm businesses that need to put in accessory buildings. So I think this is something that affects future residents and it affects existing residents, and I think it's worth taking a second look at.
Thank you, Councillor Heeman. Is there Deputy Mayor Smybury?
So with that, I'm just wondering if I could propose an amendment to the motion on the floor, and that council directs staff to report back on the plan for both the master servicing plan and also the development charges bylaw review, so that we're doing that sooner rather than later.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Heeman? All in favor? Okay, that carries. So we will we'll start working on that, and we'll be back to you. Okay, and thanks for your attendance here tonight. It's good information. So council's about to move into the public meeting concerning planning. And a mover and a seconder that council adjourn its regular meeting at 5:19 p.m. and move into public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act to consider applications listed on the September 22nd, 2025 regular council agenda. A mover and a seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lucky. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. So the first one, 7.1, consent application B13-25 and zoning bylaw amendment, excuse me, application Z15-25, Brandon Patrick Hutchison and Sarah Dorothy Hutchison as the applicant, Jeff Brunsma, Van Harten Surveying, Inc. as the agent, and the property address is 5196 Marion Street here in Dorchester. And we'll look to Lindsay Nguyen, our planner, to present.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Ms. Besh is out tonight, so you're stuck with me for the first few reports. Nice to see everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. My first presentation today is for staff report PDS-046-25 regarding consent application B13 and zoning bylaw amendment application Z15 submitted by Brandon and Sarah Hutchison for the property known municipally as 5196 Marion Street in Dorchester. The purpose of the consent application is to sever a parcel of land along Marion Street to create a new residential lot. The purpose of the related zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone both the severed parcel and the portion of the retained lands from future development zone to the residential first density zone, or R1, to permit the residential use and recognize the existing residential use that's already there, matching the remaining zoning fabric of the neighboring homes to the east. The subject property is a 15.8 hectare parcel located on the north side of Marion Street, opposite Clara Street in Dorchester. The lands are currently used residentially with one single detached dwelling and two accessory sheds, serviced by well and private septic. The applicants propose to sever a lot with approximately 25 meters of frontage and an area of 0.2 hectares. This lot would accommodate a new single detached dwelling, and the existing shed located on the proposed severed lot would be removed. The retained lands would continue to accommodate the existing dwelling and one remaining shed. A new driveway will be required for the retained parcel as the current access falls on the severed portion. A road entrance permit is covered within the mentioned conditions for legal and safe access onto Marion. Municipal water is available nearby at Clara Street. Both the severed and retained lots will be required to connect to municipal water, and the existing well is to be decommissioned. Again, this is also addressed through conditions to uphold policies outlined in our official plan. The applicants provided a natural heritage review, peer-reviewed by Stantec Engineering, which concluded that there would be no negative impacts on nearby significant woodlands. A servicing report also confirmed that the proposed lot can accommodate a new septic system. From a zoning perspective, rezoning to R1 is appropriate for both the severed parcel, which will support a new home, and the retained parcel, which already contains a dwelling. The amendment recognizes the use of the property and ensures orderly, low-density development consistent with the surrounding neighborhood when it comes to the new proposal for the dwelling. Staff are satisfied that the applications are consistent with the PPS, conform to the county and Thames Center official plans, and in my professional opinion, constitute good land use planning. In circulation of the applications, the following comments were received, including Public Works identifying the need to connect to municipal water and a new driveway for the retained lot with the extension of water services from Clara Street. The drainage superintendent identified no concerns. The chief building official identified requirements for permits related to servicing, septic, demolition of the shed, and zoning compliance of all structures. And the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority also raised no concerns. Written public comments were received and are attached to the report. Staff responded to these inquiries directly as they were received pertaining to road access and natural heritage features. Overall, no objections were raised that would preclude an approval in the professional opinion of staff. Based on the foregoing, staff recommend that council proceed with the recommendation as outlined in the report. Thank you, and I believe the applicant is here as well, and we'd both be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Lindsay. So then we will ask, is the applicant or the agent in wishing to make some?
Your worship, the agent's online. I'm just bringing you over right now.
Certainly. If you can hear us, just let us know that you can hear us. Okay, I see you online there. Can you hear
Yes.
us okay?
Yeah, I can.
Do you want to make some comments?
Yeah, the only comment I have to make is we did see the concerns that were brought up by the neighbors, and just addressing the natural features. So the proposed area of development is actually further away than the existing residential dwelling on the lot right now. And we did size it in a way that would minimize impacts and also reflect the current lots already existing on the neighboring stretch. And the driveway for the severed is already in place, and they'd have to go through public works and go through traffic safety and studies to get the new driveway on the retained. So that'll be up to Public Works to decide. As far as anything else, we do agree with the conditions, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Anyone from the public wishing to make comments, either in the chambers or online? No.
Your worship, I have Steve Smith online. I'll bring him over.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, there's a lot of noise in the background, but yes. Just a sec, see if we can fix it on our end.
No, I think it's on my end.
I think it's on your end, yes.
Mr. Smith, you may have to turn off the audio for this meeting.
Give me a sec.
That sounds better.
Would you like to try again?
Can you hear me now?
There's still a lot of feedback.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but still we're getting the feedback.
You got to mute your audio.
Yeah.
Before you unmute your mic. And then when you're done speaking, unmute your audio so you can hear us.
Are you ready to try again? Okay.
Mr. Smith, if you have the YouTube open as well, you'll have to minimize that and mute the YouTube video, because that could be causing the feedback as well.
So how are we doing now? Have you
Can
got
you
it?
hear me now?
Yes. And no
Without
feedback. So
Awesome.
go ahead when you're ready.
I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
Well, I guess is our first time, presenting to council or providing some feedback to council. I don't know if our concerns that that we wrote into have been read by council. I'm going to assume they have not. And I guess our two concerns were, first of all, is the safety concern about having another driveway on the downward slope of Marion Street. So we've lived at 502 Marion Street since 2008 and both work from a room facing the corner of Marion and Clara. Drivers disregard the stop sign on a daily basis, especially during daylight hours. So this is not an issue with respect to lighting or signage. These drivers are traveling west on Marion Street, and when they don't see another vehicle approaching the intersection from Clara Street, they accelerate through the intersection without stopping. It really is astonishing how fast some of these vehicles are traveling. We've witnessed cars, commercial trucks, motorcycles, ATVs, all displaying this driving behavior, while cyclists and pedestrians are on the road. If a new driveway for the existing house will need to be created, and I understand it sounds like their plan is to use the entrance that exists already to access the west pasture, but like really that's halfway down the hill, and with people speeding through that stop sign, it's only a matter of time that there's going to be some sort of an accident here. And so we don't really think that our concerns around safety have been taken into full consideration here. We're using that existing driveway to west pasture was like almost never used, but a new driveway will be used much more frequently. And I know that one of our neighbors have expressed the safety concerns to the OPP, and they've acknowledged there is a problem, but they don't have manpower to deal with it. And then the second issue that we had was the proposed severed lot currently contains around 90 trees. And I got to believe that if there's going to be, a new house built there's going to be a lot of lost trees. And these trees are homes to a wide variety of animals, and it would be a shame to see that many trees removed. So, and Erin, who is the planner, said that she was going to seek some input on this particular concern from Mark Brown, but as of this point, she has not replied that she's received an email from Mark Brown. So anyway, those are our concerns. We oppose this severance at this point. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So from staff point of view, is there anything you would like to say in terms of the residents' concerns?
Yes, through you, your worship, to Mr. Smith online and everyone in chambers. In relation to the natural heritage piece that you're discussing, hear your concerns loud and clear. The municipality required the applicant to provide a letter from a qualified professional demonstrating that no negative impacts on woodlands would occur. And the applicant is required to adhere to these submitted plans. Staff are satisfied with that ecologist assessment. which was also subject to peer review, as I previously mentioned. I encourage you to reach out to Mark Brown if you haven't heard back yet. I know Erin was unexpectedly off today. I'm sure if she did receive a reply, it will be coming your way shortly. In relation to the roadway concerns, again, here at Loud and Clear, the Director of Public Works has reviewed the application and didn't identify concerns with the addition of a driveway. There are no plans for any further driveway accesses west of the house, and any future severances would be fully evaluated by our roads department as well as building. And I can defer to Public Works to further elaborate on his comments, but from a staff perspective, we see no concerns with that. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, nothing here from Public Works then. So I'll turn it over. If there's no one else in the chambers asking questions or making comments, then I'll turn it over to council for any questions or comments that they might have. I'm sorry, sir, are you from the community as well? Okay, would you like to say something? Would you like to take the podium and just indicate your name and your property address, please?
Terry Slegers, 5206 Marion Street. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'm here today to speak in opposition of the rezoning and surveillance of the application of 5196 Marion Street in Dorchester. We have already submitted a letter citing several environmental and safety concerns for your sale. My primary concern, and one I believe should be yours as well, is safety. This proposal would likely result in a creation of additional laneway or driveway access on a stretch of road that is already dangerous. The property fronts onto a three-way stop, where visibility is limited and driver behavior is already a problem. Every day, multiple vehicles roll through or outright ignore these stop signs. Adding another access point, no matter where it's placed along the frontage, will only make things worse. The new driveway would be hidden from at least one direction, making it difficult for both entering and passing drivers to see one another in time. This significantly increases the risk of collisions and confusion at an already problematic intersection. It is also important that multiple school bus runs from local schools travel through this intersection twice daily during the week. These buses are carrying children, and in the addition of another laneway and potentially another residential dwelling, creates more danger in an area where heightened caution should already be the standard. Approving this application would knowingly and and adding a new hazard to an unsafe situation. I urge you to consider the real-world impact on the local safety and reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slegers. At this point now, then I will turn it over to council for some questions or comments that they might have. Councillor Lockie.
Through your worship, just for Mr. Smith and Mr. Slegers, I really appreciate you bringing your concerns forward. I think that the concerns about road safety are a little bit different than what, with this application. And I think it's a really good suggestion to bring those, for us as council, to bring those safety concerns forward to the county. And maybe there are measures that we can do to make that area more safe. With respect to, the environmental, I also have concern. I'm in charge of the Environmental Advisory Committee, but I do believe that the planner has addressed those concerns.
Can I speak on that?
If you're brief, yes.
Yeah, okay. I believe that the assessment was whether or not the severance of a piece of property would actually impact the remaining woodland, as opposed to what we're concerned about is the removal of all of the trees that are currently on that proposed severed piece of property. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from council? Deputy Mayor Smyberg.
Thank you, and I do appreciate the feedback from the residents surrounding this particular property. I was just going to indicate, in addition to what Councillor Lockheed indicated, as a police service board member, I'm happy to bring this matter before the board to see if the OPP can be more active in trying to ensure that there's, I guess, increased road safety at that intersection.
Thank you. If Councillor Heeman, then
Yeah, just with respect to the comments regarding the trees, the natural heritage status is for the rear section of the lot. And unless it's designated natural heritage, development activities are permitted. So that's something that is, regardless of whether there's a severance or not, those trees are not protected under our current planning. And we don't have a tree cutting bylaw with the municipality. We have a tree cutting bylaw with the county. So I appreciate the need to protect our forest cover, and I think we've all committed to that in different ways. And as part of this new development, there will be some additional tree planting as per our regular bylaws for every house that's developed. And I just would encourage you to consider that the potential individuals who will be living in that lot will see the problems on your street. And I think that common sense will prevail upon them to act with good character, just as everybody else on that street does, to ensure the community safety. Thank you.
thank you, Councillor Heeman. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Okay, then moving on to the decision part, there are two required, one for consent and one for zoning. So the first one is that I need a mover and a seconder that report number PDS-046-25 be received for information, and that the application for consent B13-25 requested by Brandon and Sarah Hutchison for lands legally described as part of Lot 10, Concession 3, NRT, Geographic Township of North Dorchester, Municipality of Thames Center, and known municipally as 5196 Marion Street be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined on the agenda. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? And this is the consent. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Councillor Lockheed. All in favor? That carries. Then moving on to the zoning. A mover and a seconder again, that zoning bylaw amendment application Z15-25 to rezone a portion of the subject lands from future development zone to the residential first density R1 zone for lands legally described as part of Lot 10, Concession 3, NRT, Geographic Township of North Dorchester, Municipality of Thames Center, and known municipally as 5196 Marion Street be approved, and that the implementing bylaw be considered as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smyberg and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. Thank you to all the participants, and thank you to our planner. We'll move on now to 7.2, consent application B15-25, Ken Levy and Barb Levy as owners. The property is 17349, 17441, and 17477 Elgin Field Road, otherwise known as Highway 7. Okay, overview by the planner. Lindsay, whenever you're ready.
Next up is staff report PDS-047-25 regarding 17439 Elgin Field Road. The purpose of this application is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a residence that is surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation. The severed lot would contain the dwelling at 17439 Elginfield Road and an accessory storage shed. The subject property is a 25-hectare farm located on the south side of Elginfield Road and east side of Heritage Road. The lands currently contain 3 single detached dwellings and a farm storage shed. A water course traverses through the southern portion of the property regulated by the Upper Thames Regional Conservation Authority. The dwelling to be severed is situated on a parcel approximately 0.4 hectares in size with frontage along Elginfield Road. The home is serviced by a private well and septic system and has direct access to Highway 7. The retained parcel would remain approximately 25 hectares in size, and access to the farm would be maintained from the driveway serving 17477 Elginfield Road. Through a previous temporary use rezoning, the dwelling at 17477 was permitted while the older dwelling at 17441 remained occupied. As per that approval, the dwelling at 17441 is required to be removed following the 3-year temporary period, leaving 1 residence to remain on the farm parcel. This application has been reviewed against the provincial planning statement, the county official plan, and the Thames Center official plan. All 3 permit severances for surplus farm dwelling severances, provided certain criteria can be met and are satisfied, including that the dwelling is habitable and at least 10 years old. The residential lot is no larger than necessary, and the applicant demonstrates ownership of farm consolidation. The applicants have demonstrated that all of these have been met, and the retained farm parcel will continue to be farmed as part of a consolidated operation, and the severed parcel is appropriately sized to contain the dwelling and the private servicing. Zoning compliance has been reviewed, and the severed parcel would comply with the agricultural zone requirements for undersized lots. No rezoning of the retained parcel is required, as that temporary use mechanism will lapse and only 1 dwelling will remain on the property. Circulation of the application produced the following comments. Public Works had no concerns. The drainage superintendent advised that a drainage reassessment would be required. The chief building official requested survey confirmation of zoning compliance, confirmation of the location of servicing, removal of the dwelling at 17441 Elginfield Road, as we discussed, and an engineering report confirming the structural suitability of the agricultural building that remains on the severed lot. The UTRCA raised no objections, noting that the severed parcel is adequately set back from the natural hazard present on the property, and no public comments were received in the circulation of this application. Based on the foregoing, staff recommend that council support the recommendation outlined in the report. And thank you once again. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is the applicant or the agent in the room wishing to make some comments? If you would just your name and your property ad.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. First off, thank you for your consideration of this application. Secondly, I want to express our thanks to the Thames Center staff for their help and guidance with this process. We've had good explanations of the conditions of the severance and have understood these conditions, all but the removal of the existing outbuildings. That was one of the requirements, and I'd like to bring that forward. The existing outbuildings have been used on the farm for family and farm storage product storage over the years. The shed probably started with a 1920 building, I'm going to say. It's a timber frame structure, and there were 2 other structures built onto each end, one in probably the 1960s and one in the 1980s. The building official is asking that these meet the building code of today. Good luck with that. That's not going to happen. So basically what the requirement or the ask is that we would remove those buildings. I think, in my opinion, they're existing non-conforming. I think that they should be allowed to stay there. I also feel that this is a bit of a overreach of power to make this request. I would like your approval to eliminate this request from this requisition. And I do not think that you have the responsibility to ask that we do that. I don't think you have any safety reasons or safety concerns as far as the municipality is concerned. And I think that that should be removed as a request, being that we use these buildings every day for storage, for farm equipment and whatnot. I'm not saying they're in the best condition in the world. I'm thinking the ones over 100 years old, but I would like your consideration in that request.
Thank you. So, just looking at the agenda here, I think you're referring to, number 8 on the agenda, is it? I am not sure what to say on this particular. Lindsay, do you have any more information regarding how we came to this decision to have these buildings removed? Is there a reason?
Yes, through you, your worship, to council and Mr. Levy. Yeah, this was a condition provided by our chief building official, Eric Goulard, as a standard condition for the structures on the property. We discussed this condition with Eric today, who remained firm on his comment relating to these buildings. But it's something that we can discuss with him further, should that be an option you wish us to pursue.
All right, thank you for that. Okay. So are there any members of the public wishing to comment on this application as well, Sarah, either here or online?
There's no one online, your worship.
Okay. All right. So at this time, then, I'll ask council for their input, comments, or questions. Anyone with comments or questions regarding this application? Councillor Heeman.
Just as a point of clarification, is the requirement, the in question requirement number 8? Okay, and so just referring to the map, is it the one in the southwest corner? Like the straight one, or is it the bank?
It's the straight one. You can see it's sort of built in 3 pieces. The other one does not exist. It was removed by demolition by permit, I believe 3 years ago, maybe even 4. So it is the straight one along the side of the property.
Just going to enlarge that a wee bit. Okay. All righty. Councillor Heeman, anything further?
No, it's just as a small aside, do you have any problems getting property insurance for that building?
I do not insure the building for the reason that if something happened to it, I do not believe that it would be insurable. I'll say it like that.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from council on this one?
I just had a question with respect to the building in question. So today, what is the building used for, and what do you propose the use to be when you sever the property?
The building is currently used for some straw storage in one end. The middle is for some gravity wagons that we use on the farm. And the end building it's sort of like a 2-car garage. It's newer steel structure, but they're all tied to the center 1920s building. And if you take one, you got to take them all. So it's just used, the 2-car garage is a steel structure that looks quite modern, but it doesn't have an end in the one because they built against the other building, and it is used for the tenant in the house uses it for storage.
Thank you. So this building is used by the tenant and not yourself? Did I understand that correctly? You might as well.
Excuse me when you wish. It is used by the tenant to store personal items in that garage area.
Okay. What would you say its reasonable condition is? Is it,
I would say that the condition is, if we start at the one end, the newer end, the condition is probably an 8. The middle structure, the condition is probably a 5, and the end structure is probably a 2.
okay, just one moment, then, please. Councillor Heeman.
Yeah, so, well, I think we're struggling with this one because I think we've seen examples where that has, like, what you're talking about has been permitted. I'm, in my own experience, I know that that's been the case, but I think that the technicality in terms of the changing of, the use, right? So it's supposed to be for like accessory residential use. And, so that's where the standards for accessory residential use are not being met in that instance, but I am sympathetic to the existing non-conforming status.
I think planning has a comment to make as well.
Thanks, through your worship, and Ken, I can appreciate your concern for keeping the building. I think Eric's point is to obtain a permit to confirm the use and ensure that it's meeting code, not to remove the use. But if that can't happen, then he's suggesting removing the use. So I just want to present that option of obtaining a permit to make it compliant.
Any comment?
Worship, through you, my concern is that if we do severances similar to this in the future, how long is it before, when we sever the house, for example, that there's no comments made about the house, that we say it needs a new roof? Or something similar to that. This building, it exists today. It does do what it's supposed to do for us. What it's doing forward, as a residential property, I'm not sure what concern that would be of councils or of the municipality. My liability insurance covers it. Anything that happens there, I just don't understand. I guess I'm having trouble with the fact that it's personal property and you're telling me that you want it to be brought up to standards. So I'd like to go across to that house across the road and ask them to bring their house up to standards of today's building code.
It's just another question of clarification. So if the severance actually excluded those buildings, we wouldn't be talking about that, because that would then remain as an accessory use for the agricultural use of the lands. I think where staff's coming from is because you're now going from a agricultural lot now to a residential lot, there's a change of use permit. Is that essentially what you're asking for? So it potentially can change the use of what that building is used for. I think that's where staff is coming from. But I'm just questioning the professional structural engineer.
I think it's because, sorry, through your worship, thanks, Councillor Smiber. I think it's because it's been altered without a permit and it's assessed as an agricultural building. And those alterations for it to be brought up back to building code requires a permit. And I think it's just because when we assess the lands from a application standpoint and what the buildings are listed as through MPAC, it flags it for the CBO to say we actually don't assess it as that, and those alterations require a permit. So I think that's just kind of where it's coming down to.
Okay, I'm going to say it like this, that's all I can present. That's all I can kind of tell you. In my opinion, I don't think it's any of your business, that building. It exists on the lot and whatnot, but it is your decision to make, and I'll rest my case.
Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over at the moment for a comment by our clerk concerning who has jurisdiction.
I just wanted to, just so you are aware, the CBO comments because he is legally responsible and is not under the control of the council on the safety of buildings. Just so you know, his comment is required to be submitted separately, and council can't make any, they can't, well, they can talk about conditions, but he isn't controlled by them. That I just wanted you to understand. It's not council who's requiring this. It's a building
Okay.
official.
Okay, fully understand. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jana. All right. Are there any other questions or comments from council before we move on to the decision? No? Okay. So. I'm sorry, I lost track here. So right at the moment, we are going to close the public meeting, and a decision is to be made. So a mover and a seconder on that report number PDS -047-25 be received for information, and that application for consent B15-25 requested by Ken and Barb Levy for lands legally described as part of lots 35, 36, and part of Road Allowance Concession 5, Geographic Township of West Missouri, Municipality of Thames Center, and known municipally as 17439 Elgin Road, Highway 7, be approved, subject to the conditions listed on the agenda. A mover and a seconder for that motion. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyber. All in favor? And none opposed, so that carries. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Levy, for your attendance here. Keep working with the building official. Then we're going to be moving on here now to 7.3. Consent application B16-25 Plover Mills Farm, Inc., owner David Cole, agent. Property address is 22946 Valley View Road. And once again, an overview of the application by our planner, Lindsay Noreen.
Round 3. Finally, for me tonight is staff report PDS-049-25 regarding consent application B16-25 for the property known municipally as 22946 Valley View Road. The purpose of this application is to convey a parcel of land approximately 3 hectares in size for lot addition purposes. The conveyed parcel is intended to merge with the abutting property to the south, located at 22668 Valley View Road. No new lot will be created through this application and no development is proposed. The subject property is a 23.15 hectare farm located at the southeast corner of Valley View Road in Plover Mills, directly abutting the Thames River. The property contains a dwelling, agricultural buildings, pasture land, as well as significant woodlands identified through the Middlesex Natural Heritage System study. The lands to be conveyed consist solely of significant woodlands designated as protection area and agricultural in the Thames Center official plan and zoned environmental protection. The applicant has confirmed that no new development or change in use is proposed as a result of this consent. The application has been reviewed, and collectively all policies support the boundary adjustments provided that agricultural lands are maintained, no new lots are created, and natural heritage features are protected. The lands to be conveyed, as I mentioned, are fully within the protection area and environmental protection zone, ensuring that no new development will be permitted. The retained parcel, however, will be undersized relative to minimum lot area requirements in the agricultural zone. For this reason, a minor variance will be required as a condition of approval. Overall, staff are satisfied that this application maintains agricultural operations, protects environmental features, and conforms with the applicable policy frameworks. Comments were received from prescribed agencies, all having no concerns with the proposal. The Upper Thames River Conservation Authority did raise a general concern with the lot line adjustment in a hazard land, but made an exception in this case given that no new lot is being created. The EP zone is generally being consolidated to only one lot, and no development is proposed. The UTRCA also reminded both landowners that any future development will be subject to not only planning approvals, but Section 28 permits. There was one public comment received speaking to the ownership of the waterfront. UTRCA will remain the regulatory authority of the waterfront lands, but both owners have frontage of the Thames on title. As mentioned, no new access or development will be proposed through this application. And based on all of the above, staff recommend council support the recommendation as written in the report. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, is the applicant or the agent in the room and wishing to speak? Do you wish to speak? Okay, all right. Anyone in here from the public who wants to ask questions, or anyone online?
There's no one online, your worship.
Okay. All right, in that case, then I will turn it over to the members of council in case that they have any. Councillor Heeman?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't, not so much a question, just a observation that when I think these lands have been before us previously when we initially attached the one largest agricultural segment to a residential lot, and so I think the question at that time was whether there's a ability to undertake an agricultural income, and I congratulate the applicant for continuing with his agricultural enterprises. So best of luck.
Okay. Anything else from council? Okay, in that particular case, if there are no further discussion, the public participation meeting is now closed. And a mover and a seconder that report number PDS-049-25 be received for information, and that application for consent B16-24 requested by David Cole for Plover Mills Farms Limited to convey a parcel of land having an area of approximately 3.4 hectares, otherwise 8.48 acres, for lands legally described as part of lots 24 and 25, West Missouri Concession 2, and parts 5 to 7, part of parts 4 and 12 of registered plan 33R 13061, municipality of Thames Center, and known municipally as 22924 Valley View Road be approved, subject to the conditions as appended to your agenda. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That passes. Thank you. Thanks for your attendance, Mr. Cole. Okay, item number 7.4, official plan amendment application 02-25 and zoning bylaw amendment application Z16-25, Thames Center Acres, Inc., care of Andy Chima applicant, and Zelinka Priamo Limited, care of Aaliyah Richards as the agent, and the property is 4470 Breen Road here in Thames Center. And Ms. Cortez to present.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this official plan amendment is to redesignate a portion of the subject lands along Breen Road from the agricultural designation to the rural industrial designation to facilitate the industrial development of the lands, and also to redesignate another portion of the same size from rural industrial to agricultural. And the proposed relocation of the rural industrial lands on the property is intended to improve the functionality of the industrial lands, since currently the configuration leaves the existing rural industrial lands without frontage or access to a public road. And the purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone the same portions from the agricultural A zone to the general industrial M1 zone to permit industrial uses, and then also rezoning from the general industrial M1 zone to the agricultural zone to permit agricultural uses, and the balance of the lands are to remain unchanged. So the property is a 55-acre lot situated on the north side of Breen Road, east of Putnam Road, and outside of the hamlet of Putnam. And the applicants have advised that the proposed relocation of the rural industrial lands on the property is intended to improve the functionality, since, as noted, the current configuration leaves the existing industrial lot or industrial area without frontage or access to the public road. And at this time, no buildings or structures are proposed. So surrounding land uses include industrial land uses and residential uses, being the hamlet of Putnam to the west, agricultural uses to the south and to the east. Highway 401 is also located south of the lands, and the CP Railway is located west and north of the lands. So the Thames Center official plan contains criteria to consider when an official plan amendment is proposed, and staff believe the criteria has been met or is capable of being met. And Additionally, the Thames Center official plan also contains criteria to be evaluated when a zoning bylaw amendment is proposed, and also believes that this criteria has been met or is capable of being met. Staff would like to highlight, as part of the official plan amendment criteria and the zoning bylaw amendment criteria, land use compatibility and ensuring unacceptable adverse impacts to surrounding land uses are alleviated or prevented needs to be satisfied. A minimum distance separation analysis was submitted with this application and looked at the MDS setbacks from what appears to be an existing manure storage building on a property across the road from the subject lands, and the proposed site for the relocation of the lands to be designated and zoned industrial. So based on the analysis, this portion of the subject lands proposed to be designated and zoned for industrial purposes is approximately 2 feet or 0.69 meters closer to the manure storage building than required by MDS setbacks. So to ensure that future development proposals on the subject lands meet MDS 1 setbacks, staff is of the opinion that the creation of a new rural industrial special policy area 2 designation, which indicates that all development will be required to address MDS 1 setbacks, would appropriately address this requirement on the lands to be redesignated for industrial purposes. And staff would also like to note that the proposed M1 zone requires any building or structure to be set back at least 18 meters from the front lot line. So in the report, it incorrectly states a 15-meter setback from the lot lines required. So furthermore, to ensure the orderly development of the lands, staff recommends a holding provision or an H symbol is placed on the subject lands as part of the zoning bylaw amendment. And the removal of the holding provision would be contingent upon the owner entering into a development agreement, and in this case being a site plan agreement. So overall, staff is of the opinion that the subject proposal is consistent with the provincial planning statement and also in conformity with both the county and local official plans. So from the circulation of the public meeting notice, agency comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and those comments are included within the report. And after the writing of the report, comments were received from the chief building official, who advised no comments. From the circulation of the notice, we did receive one public comment from Paul Kipp, and Paul's comments are included within the agenda. His concerns mainly included traffic increase and impact on the gravel road. And staff had the opportunity to follow up with Paul and provided the comments from the county engineer and the director of public works, which speak to requiring road upgrades as part of the site plan control process. And staff also note site plan control will be applicable and would address the detailed design of the site when industrial development is proposed. So overall, staff believe the application is consistent with the PPS and in conformity with both the Thames Center and county official plans. So staff recommends that the official plan amendment be adopted and that the implementing bylaw be considered as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda. Also that the application for zoning bylaw amendment be approved in principle, and that's the zoning bylaw amendment be brought forward at a future meeting for council's consideration once the official plan amendment is approved by the County of Middlesex. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. So is there any additional information from the applicant or the agent? Again, if you wouldn't mind just stating your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, members of council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Aaliyah Richards. I'm a planning consultant with Zelenka Priamo Limited, and I'm pleased to be here this evening representing the property owner and the proponent of this application for 4470 Green Road. I have reviewed the staff report and I'm in agreement with staff's recommendation for approval. I'm hopeful that council will endorse staff's positive recommendation and approve the requested amendments. Thank you for your time and attention this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Okay. First of all, are there any, is there anyone in the chambers or who would like to speak? Okay. Would you like to come to the mic, please, then? Your name was Paul Kip and you wrote the
address-
letter,
Yeah,
did you?
3052 5 Point Road,
Okay.
which is the corner of Green Road and 5 Points. If we could bring up the site application. I don't know when the property was actually purchased from a Mel Jensen. At that time, the property was severed the way it is now. And I was wondering, why are we changing the way this property is being used now when the property's been this way for several years, up to 10 years? We've also at the same time severed between 4300 and 4212 used to be a pasture. That is now a overgrown, weeded parking lot with approximately 20 tractor trailers in the parking lot, sitting there, and have been sitting there for quite some time without any movement. The concern that I have is that the property was purchased this way, it should stay that way. Second concern is that if we sever this property, the recommendations are, I believe, that a turning lane and railroad crossing, I believe, needed to be added. And I want to make sure that that is well known here, that if this becomes commercial or M1, that those requirements have been brought up in here and are presented, and we're all aware that that needs to be done if this changes. The road is a class 2, I believe, which is a load restricted load. It's quite busy right now, especially during the construction times in the 401. It has become the alternate detour route. Unofficially, the undetailed route. There are many times that we go out today, there would be 4 to 6 inch divots in the side of the road, driving your vehicle on. Adding another commercial use is just going to make it worse. If they don't use the Green Road entrance, there's the 5 Point entrance, Thomas Road entrance. There are many different ways to get to this building, that would be used or could be used. There is no road, there is no physical driveway there other than an access for a farm tractor or farm implement to access it. Currently, the Triple H concrete factory at 4366 is a beautiful property. He maintains it, cuts the grass, very nice. It is paved until the red dotted line there. It is paved just past you can see it. And as soon as you hit that, you're wrecking your car, you're driving on it. Okay. The dump tractor trailers, the dump trucks from around the corner for the gravel pit use that road quite frequently and drive quite quickly. There are several buses being used as well. There's children on that road as well. Walk. We have a very lively evening bunch that use the road, as well as off-road vehicles that use the road quite frequently for enjoyment and recreational as well. Any additional traffic to that specific road is just unwise. It's very skinny to begin with. Unfortunately, my opinion and several of the other neighbors is the land was purchased that way quite a while ago, knowing that commercial property was unaccessible. We just really like to understand why the change now. Okay. Thank you very much for your time, everyone, and it's my first time here, so thank you.
Thank you. So any comments, any answers to that from either of the planners? Alana, you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you, Your
Go
Worship, through you. So at the time that this site is proposed to be developed for industrial purposes, so should that involve a building, or should it just be a trucking yard or a truck terminal? It would be subject to the site plan control process. And so as part of that process, we do circulate any applications to all of our departments and the required or prescribed agencies to advise what is required as part of a complete application submission. We're not required to have a pre-consultation at this point through the changes from the Ontario government, although we always encourage pre-consultation meetings, so that way we can identify exactly what's required as part of a complete application submission prior to receiving any applications. So at that time, the county engineer and the director of public works would both be involved in providing comments and advising what they require in terms of like entrance permits or road improvements and things like that. And then I did want to also just touch on that at this time, the proposal doesn't involve severing the land. It's just a matter of rezoning and redesignating. So it wasn't evaluated against any consent policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. And Ms. Richards, did you have anything else that you wanted to add? Okay. All right then. Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So essentially, they're looking to redesignate the lands. So a land use designation lays out what is permitted at a high level and how the land is intended to be used for the long term. And the zoning is more of a on the ground, what's permitted and the regulations for that. So for example, a permitted use would be a truck terminal, and then the regulations would be a building would need to be at least 15 meters from the front lot line and at least X amount from the side lot line. But the designation itself is the long-term use of the property, and the designation in the zone need to be in alignment in order for the zone to be permitted. So this through your worship, oh, sorry, can I go ahead? Okay, so this application proposes to change the land uses. So that portion that was shown, the red, that's proposed to be the industrial portion and then zone for industrial purposes, but no physical development can occur until the owner enters into a site plan agreement through the site plan control process. And the site plan agreement will identify I guess, the measures in which the development needs to meet the conditions in the agreement. So for example, I did want to note as part of site plan control, the owner needs to provide a security deposit of 2/3 of the cost of the site works to the municipality to ensure that they're going to develop the lands in accordance with the agreement. So there are some measures in place to protect this development to make sure that it's developed and maintained to a certain standard. Thank you.
I think the clerk has a comment.
I just want to make sure, so you understand, it's like a three-phased process. The first one, we have to change the official plan. And once that's done and the county approves it, then they'll bring forward the rezoning with the condition that, and I believe the rezoning has a holding provision. So there's an actual holding provision, which means that zone does not happen, can't use it in that way until they meet all of the conditions, which is the site plan, which is how we control that it doesn't become something we don't want.
Okay. Yeah, and council received that as part of our package. Okay, so at this point then I'd like to ask if there are any questions or comments from the members of council. Councillor Crockett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, Mr. Kipp, thanks for coming in and thanks to our clerk for kind of clarifying how that goes. I think that there's concerns about property usage because we can visibly see some neighboring properties to that extent. So I understand where you're coming from the concerns, but I think we also need to acknowledge that Thames Center's in the unique position that we are abutting the 401 corridor, and there's going to be continuous opportunities for us to expand industrial lands and such. And I know that these have all been previous agricultural parcels. So we are trying to work with not only at the municipal level, but also the county level on navigating how in which we can grow together to the best needs of our community. So I think at this time, I would feel comfortable supporting the motion on the table and then revisiting this once the decision's made with the property owner to see what they intend to establish. And with that, the concerns of site plan and proper zoning and roadway construction and any of the other parameters will be addressed at that time.
Thank you, Councillor Crockett. Any comments from any other members of council? Councillor Heeman.
Yeah, so just clarifying that the laneway beside the existing zoned area, that's a private access?
Through your worship, so the Putnam terminal access,
Yeah,
that is a private driveway, yes.
okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I generally, I I think it's better where it is currently because like it is closer into the hamlet of Putnam that isn't within the urban boundary, and I could see the urban boundary being expanded potentially in the future, and otherwise like that would still be a potential candidate for infilling, and our official plan tells us not to try and promote infilling where unless it's rational. So I think this is kind of
Okay, thank you. No other comments then from Alana. Would you like to say something else?
Thank you, worship, through you. So I just wanted to note that the actual settlement area of Putnam ends, I believe, west of the tracks. So this application does not contemplate like a settlement boundary expansion or anything like that. It's just a matter of relocating the existing designation and zone to a different location on the same property. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else before we move on? No? All right, again, two decisions to be made. The first one, that application for official plan amendment 02-25 requested by Thames Center Acres, Inc., care of Andy Chima, to redesignate a portion of the subject property from agricultural to rural industrial special policy area 2, and to redesignate another portion of the subject lands of the same size from rural residential to agricultural for lands legally described as part of Lot 2, Concession B, SRT, Geographic Township of North Dorchester, and designated as part of Part 1 on Reference Plan 33R 13413 and Part 3 on Reference Plan 33R 1897. I'm sorry, 18971 Municipality of Thames Center be approved, and that the implementing bylaw be considered as included in the bylaw portion of the agenda, noting that this bylaw will not come into force and effect until approved by Middlesex County Council. Mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Crockett and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? Any opposed? One opposed, that motion carries. The second portion is the zoning. That application related zoning bylaw amendment Z16-25 requested by Thames Center Acres, Inc., care of Andy Chima, to rezone a portion of the subject property from the agricultural A zone to general industrial M1H zone with a holding provision, and another portion of the same size from general industrial M1 zone to the agricultural A zone for lands legally described as part of Lot 2, Concession B, SRT, Geographic Township of North Dorchester, and designated as part of Part 1 on Reference Plan 33R 13413 and Part 3 on Reference Plan 33R 18971 Municipality of Thames Center be approved in principle, and that the implementing zoning bylaw be brought forward at a future meeting for council's consideration once the official plan amendment is approved by the County of Middlesex. The mover and the seconder. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Crockett. And all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance. So a mover and a seconder to close the public meetings. Adjournment time is 6:31 p.m. in order to sit as a committee of adjustment under the Planning Act to consider minor variance application A1-25 as listed on the September 22nd, 25 regular council agenda. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That carries. Okay. Number 8, Committee of Adjustment, 8.1, minor variance A1-25, Sifton Properties Limited applicant. Sifton Properties Limited, care of Alexandra Hassan, agent, Block 4, Hawthorne Park Subdivision, Dorchester. Alana for the overview.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to seek relief from the Thames Center zoning bylaw as it relates to the minimum lot frontage requirements of the site-specific residential third density R3-13 zone, and to seek relief from the yard encroachment and obstruction provisions within the zoning bylaw with respect to Block 4 on Plan 33M849 of the Hawthorne Park subdivision. The applicant is also seeking relief from the yard encroach. Oh, sorry, I just repeated that. So the yard encroachment would be seeking a 2.5 meter encroachment for uncovered decks into an interior side yard, whereas the zoning bylaw does not permit the encroachment of uncovered decks into an interior side yard. So the subject property is a 2.4 acre block known as Block 4, and the lands are currently vacant and are to be serviced by municipal piped water and sanitary. The applicant is proposing to construct 29 townhouses, which are to remain under common ownership for the construction of retirement residences. So with the block being under one ownership, zoning for the block is to be based on the entirety of the block rather than individual lots or units. And I'll ask Sarah to pull up the concept plan. Yes, please. This is block 4. As the frontage for street townhouses in the R3-13 zone is calculated per unit, applying a minimum lot frontage of 6 meters per unit to 29 units would result in a total minimum lot frontage of 174 meters. And due to the irregular shape of the lot, the frontage of block 4 by definition is currently 30 meters. So the most easterly lot line is considered the frontage of the block, which is 30 meters. So although visually it looks like the townhouses would front onto, like the street B would be considered the frontage, it's actually that small lot line because it's the shortest lot line. So as such, a reduction in minimum lot frontage to 1 meter per unit would result in the minimum frontage of 29 meters. Therefore, the request for the 1 meter setback, 1 meter frontage is being requested per unit. And the applicant's also seeking relief for the yard encroachment and obstruction regulations to permit the encroachment of 2.5 meters for uncovered decks. And so going back to visually, so the northerly lot line is considered the interior side lot line. So although visually that may look like a rear lot line, it's technically considered the interior side lot line. And our zoning bylaw right now does not allow for decks to encroach into interior side yards. So that's why that's being requested. So this proposed townhouse development would be subject to site plan control, and that would address the detailed design of the block. So the requested variances were evaluated against the 4 tests of a minor variance, and staff is of the opinion that all 4 tests have been met. Based on the block's L-shaped corner configuration and the zoning bylaws definition of frontage, the shortest lot line is considered to be the frontage. So in this case, it's 30 meters in length. And since the applicants are proposing 29 townhouses, they're asking for the 1 meter per unit set frontage. This variance is intended to ensure compliance with zoning regulations. And since the majority of the townhouses will front onto a public road, which is technically considered an exterior side lot line, visually, it would appear as though the frontage of the subject lands are what is now the exterior side lot line. So it would not result in a visual impact. And should an owner wish to further subdivide the block, the minimum lot frontage will be permitted to be a minimum of 1 meter if approved as applied for. So staff recommend a condition be included within the decision to permit the 1 meter lot frontages for each townhouse unit, provided that block 4 remains under common ownership. So this would ensure that in the event that a proposal to further subdivide the block is being proposed, the existing lot frontage requirement of 6 meters per unit would be applicable as required by the existing R3-13 zone. And then also with regard to the requested encroachment of 2.5 meters, so the northerly lot line is the interior side lot line that abuts the Dorchester Terrace and future residential uses. The portion of the interior side lot line which abuts the Dorchester Terrace would also abut the parking lot of this retirement home. So not physically abutting the building, but just the parking lot itself. And then it also would abut future residential uses on the neighboring lands to the north, being block 1. So just kind of north of there. As shown on the concept plan, the proposed encroachment of uncovered decks would not create unacceptable adverse impacts on neighboring lands. And staff would like to note the minimum interior side yard setback in the R3-13 zone is 1.4 meters. So it's recommended that a condition be included to permit the requested encroachment, provided that the townhouse dwellings are set back at least 4 meters from an interior side lot line. A townhouse dwelling that is set back 4 meters within the interior side yard would result in a deck being set back at least 1.5 meters from the lot line. And this would allow for the encroachment of the uncovered decks while also maintaining adequate separation from future residential uses. So during the circulation of the public meeting notice, comments were received from the drainage superintendent and Sun Canadian, and those comments are included within the report. After the writing of the report, comments were received from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, who advised no objections since Block 4 is located outside of the UTRCA regulated area. So staff recommend that the application be approved for the conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. So, I see Mr. Meshlin's here. Do you have any comments? Do you want to just introduce yourself, please?
Your worship, Philip Maschlin, Sifton Properties Limited. We're in support of the three conditions in the report. It does also note in the report that the subdivision is now registered. So it's a registered subdivision. There is a subdivision agreement. We're installing infrastructure right now. We just made the connection recently to Dorchester Road. So we're at the stage now of applying for building permits and actually starting construction of the residential units. So we're very much in support of moving the minor variance forward to moving forward to construction right away. Going back at least 3 or 4 years ago, we have had specific interests locally, local people who want to stay living in Dorchester and don't want to be in the Dorchester Terrace retirement home. They're not ready to be in that retirement home. So the purpose of the 29 units is to advance a new product that's not being provided for right now. It's a rental. They're all rental accommodations. And there's connections for those future homeowners, renters, that can actually use the facilities that's next door. See, there's a walkway connection to the right and then also the left. So all of that was to integrate this. So we're very eager to get this variance advanced. Number 2, apply for the building permits. And 3, construction. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Is there any questions from members of the public, either in the chambers or online?
There's no one online, your worship.
All right. If there's no one, yes.
Through your worship,
Sure.
sorry, I forgot to add that the chief building official advised no comments and the director of public works advised that there's currently a storm sewer easement that runs along the westerly edge of block 4. So just requesting that the easement's included in the application to ensure it's free of structures. So that's, sorry, I just wanted to bring those comments up. Thank you.
Jared, is that the one that comes down from Vista Woods? Yeah. Okie dokie. All right. So if there's no public questions or anything, and nothing received, so any members, I think there are questions. Deputy Mayor Smybert, we'll start with you and then go to Councillor Heeman.
Great, thank you. Not a question, just a comment. Phil, thank you for the explanation in terms of the this development. Very happy to see retirement villas being built. I think that's going to fill an important need within Thames Center. So thank you.
Councillor Heeman?
No, I'd just like to echo those comments. I think, having been in the room 3-4 years ago or whenever that was, I think there was a very renowned cry for retirement homes and uniquely kind of the one story. And I understand that that is not necessarily the most economical thing to do, but I think that this is very helpful to our retirees. And I think that ultimately this does serve an important function in the larger housing market by, allowing people to right size and then freeing up additional housing stock that then allows young families to right size their situation too. So again, thank you for listening. I know it's been a long journey getting here, so thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Councillor Heeman. And just before you go, can I ask you a couple of just questions about the product that you're putting up? Are they 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom? Can you tell us a little bit about the product in case there's some interest from the public either watching online or?
Maybe we can toss up.
Certainly.
So they're actually very similar to a product type that we built in West 5 in the West 5 community in West London. So in that situation, we have a retirement home and a senior's apartment. And to the west of that, we have 1-floor villas. In that case, it was a private site, a condominium. This is interesting that it's freehold, fronting on a public street. One car garage, just over 1,000 square feet. I think it's 1050. I could be corrected on the exact square footage. All one floor. And like I said, we made a connection to the north, be able to have residents connect right into this facility, and then using the amenities that are also in that building. And again, it's just like a third product type in the community. And the continuum of care conversation, the idea where there's local people who wish to stay here in town. They're not ready to move into that facility. It allows them to have a rental product, yet all of the infrastructure and all of the second level of care, I'll call it, the retirement, the seniors housing, and the third, being the retirement home, gives them options. And
So
that's
something like graduated
yeah,
from residential single family, say, to this, and then potentially.
exactly, graduated. And there's I'd say a common occurrence where when individuals come into a rental or come into, say, the senior's apartment, they may think they're going to be there 5 or 6 years, but then something may happen in their health where that turns into some different time frame, and the facility's already there. They're able to move right from one to the other, and it's really very helpful to have that sort of 3 different product types right in the same area. It's really good for the community.
Thank you. Councillor Crockett, do you have something?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mayor. Is that agreement still in place considering that the Dorchester Terrace is now owned by, I believe, Chartwell?
Chartwell's the agreement purchase and sale.
Okay.
So it has not closed.
Okay.
This is one of the conditions to close.
Okay.
So Sifton is constructing the units, and that's part of the agreement that Chartwell would acquire that as well.
Okay,
with
perfect.
our
Thanks for that
conditions
clarity.
finishing.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Ashland. I appreciate that. Okay. If there's nothing else then from council, we'll close public meeting. And were you signaling me, Jeremy? Nope. Okay, so mover and the seconder, that application for minor variance A1-2025 filed by Sifton Properties Limited to seek relief from the minimum lot frontage requirements of the site-specific residential third density R313 zone to permit a reduced minimum lot frontage of 1 meter, 3.3 feet per unit, and to permit encroachment of 2.5 meters for uncovered decks into an interior side yard for lands legally described as Block 4 on Plan 33M 849, Geographic Township of North Dorchester, Municipality of Thames Center, be approved subject to the conditions as appended on your agenda. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Crockett. All in favor? Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so a mover and a seconder to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 6:47. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Lockie, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the previous minutes. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Lockie. And I'm guessing we just lost a councillor. Anyway, yeah. All in favor? Okay, that motion carries. Item number 10 on your agenda is the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So a mover and a seconder that consent agenda items 10.1 through 10.8 be received for information. Councillor Lockie and Deputy Mayor Smybert, all in favor? That carries. Okay, reports of departments is the next item on the agenda. So I'm going to turn this over to the Director of Public Works regarding unit number 65, an ice resurfacer replacement award.
Thank you, Worship. Staff report PW 012-25, Unit 65, ice resurfacer replacement. The current fleet inventory consists of 2 ice resurfacers that are actively used. The older one, of the 2 units, is a 2011 Olympia that has reached its useful life according to the fleet replacement plan. Recent unplanned maintenance activities support this, that is life. Quotes were received from 2 suppliers and evaluated by staff. The budgeted amount approved in the 2025 capital budget was $132,000. The purchase price of a replacement unit is $143,906.96, approximately $12,000 over budget. It's recommended that the purchase price of $143,906.96, including rebated HST, be funded from the Fleet Vehicle Reserve Fund, and any proceeds received from the sale of the 2011 Olympia would be used to reduce the impact of the budget shortfall and return to the Fleet Vehicle Reserve. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jared. So any questions from council regarding this this particular matter? Seems not. Okay. So the motion is that report number PW 012-25, unit number 65, ice resurfacer replacement award be received for information, and that council approve the purchase of a 2025 Olympia Millennium H ice resurfacer from Resurface Corporation for the sum of $143,906.96, including rebated HST, and that funding for this purchase be all allocated from the Fleet and Vehicle Reserve. And that once the replacement unit is received and approved to the satisfaction of the Community Services and Facilities Director, the replaced unit be deemed surplus and sold as per the purchasing policy, and any proceeds be returned to the Fleet and Vehicle Reserve. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Heeman and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That carries. So next item, 11.2 is a policy review, and we're going to ask the clerk to present.
Good evening. The purpose of the report is to provide you with the requested policy review from the August 25th meeting, 2025. You guys directed staff to initiate a review of the policies and procedures and create a schedule for bringing them forward to council. So at this point, I started an index of all of the policies, counting them, things like that. I just wanted to bring forward an early high priority policy schedule. Specifically, these are the ones that are required under Section 270 of the Municipal Act. I gave an outline of all of them in the report: the sale and other disposition of land, hiring of employees, council staff relations, procurement of goods and services, public notice, accountability and transparency, the delegation of powers and duties, the tree canopy and natural vegetation, and pregnancy and parental leaves for council. At this time, I've reviewed all of the required policies, and the top ones that need to be brought forward with a little more urgency instead of doing a large review would be the delegation of power and duties and the sale and disposition of land. I think those two can probably be completed together in the meeting in October. I originally had the procurement of goods and services up there, but we are meeting with the county procurement officer and it got delayed a little bit. So it has been moved back to the suggestion of November 10th for that meeting, since he's actually been fairly involved in helping other municipalities update theirs. I think it's purposeful. And along with that, at the same time, there will be information and most likely a policy written about signing authorities. They do kind of go hand in hand for signing contracts with the municipalities. So that'll probably come at the same time, if not shortly after that one. And then the public notice policy, that one's sort of
been on my radar since I got here. We have the bare minimum, and I think it's probably, I know communication is very important to council. So I think it's a good idea at the same time to bring that up to date as we are moving forward with updating bigger ones. It probably, from following that, I will probably bring a supplemental report, but I'm going to be honest with you, we probably will have 1 to 2 policies per council meeting. After that, we're in the neighborhood of 180 policies that need to be reviewed, so it's going to take some time. But I wanted to start with the ones that are required first. So these ones actually also are required to be publicly facing, so they need to be on our website, and that's one of the reasons I also want to make sure I get all of those. And then by the end of the last council of the term, I hope to have all the Section 270s have been reviewed, because not all of them need a lot of work. Some of them are newer than others. So that's the plan. And I'm just requesting that you guys approve the timeline. And if you have any suggestions or changes of ones you would like sooner, please let me know.
Thanks, Jenna. Any questions from council? Yes, Councillor Lockie.
Yeah, through your worship, I would just ask that if we could bring the tree canopy and natural vegetation policy through the Environmental Advisory Committee for feedback, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Lockie. Anything else? Deputy Mayor Smyrbert?
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for being so quick to bring this forward, and I think it's a reasonable time frame for us to take a look at policies. And even if there are policies that don't need a lot of changes, it's probably good for us as a refresher to understand those policies moving forward. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, then, in this particular case, a mover and a seconder that report number LS-010-25 be received for information, and that council directs staff to proceed with the policy review schedule as proposed. Councillor Lockie and Deputy Mayor Smyrbert, all in favor? That's carried. Reports of committees. Items listed under reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So a mover and a seconder that reports of committees agenda items 12.1 through 12.3 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Any unfinished business? Councillor Heeman?
I just wanted to fulfill your wish that committee business be highlighted if we approve something. So in that instance, we approved the inaugural mural project for Thames Center. So I think that's looking forward to developments there, and apparently the artist is looking to get started by the end of the month.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And that it's a rather exciting project. So stay tuned, municipality. Any notices of motion? Nope. Any new business? Okay, we'll move on to bylaws then. Looking for a mover and a seconder that bylaws 75-2025 through 78-2025 be read a first, second, and third time and be adopted. A mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Lockie and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smyrbert. All in favor? That carried. Thank you. So item number 6, pardon me, meeting schedule is the next meeting is Monday, October the 6th, 2025 at 5 p.m. And just a note, it will then be held in the Thorndale Lions Community Center at 265 Upper Queen Street in Thorndale. And the meeting following that one will be for Monday, October the 20th, 2025 at 5 p.m. I just want to say too, also before I close, and I forgot to say this, congratulations to the Thorndale Fair Board. You did a marvelous job of the opening ceremonies, that pie auction, which entrances me. It's amazing. A little over $11,000, I believe, was raised for the Fair Board in the sale of these pies. So kudos to that community. They certainly get behind. And thanks to all the organizers, it was a good event. On a motion for adjournment then. Councillor Lockie and nobody else? Councillor Crockett. All in favor? All right, that adjourns at